Kathy, Luz, Connie, Christine, Rebecca, Trisha, Kayla, Alyssa, Alicia, and Jasmine. Thank you for another great week of discussion in week 5 as we considered the risks to our Global Green Books project. And as you all accurately identified, there are internal risks and external risks. As Connie pointed out, internal risks are better than external risks. And the reason is, as Connie pointed out, is that we have more control over internal risks. We can recognize them better, and mitigation strategies are often more effective because the internal things are within our control. So internal risks, as many of you pointed out, Jasmine started us off this week and pointed out that one of the biggest internal risks is the part-time employees not having enough training, not having enough skills, so that risks the product not being done well. It risks things not being done on schedule. And how can we mitigate that risk? And Jasmine pointed out, well, one of the things that our project manager, Samantha, decided to do was have a manual, to have set procedures, to have a standard job order so that there's a set way of doing things, and that would help a great deal. But as Jasmine also pointed out, the thing that's also needed for these workers is training. That there's no substitute for direct training. A manual is great and absolutely necessary, and it's good to have a manual because you could refer back to it. You have something that you could study and look back on if you run into a problem. But having some direct training, being able to ask the trainer questions, as Jasmine pointed out, there's people with different learning styles. If you have a good trainer who's providing information in a variety of different formats, that's huge. That's a big way to address that particular risk. And that's an internal risk, I think, for a lot of organizations and for a lot of projects. People don't know exactly what to do. Remember, a project is something that's new, doing something that is a new adventure in an organization, and it has a beginning and an end. And so people may be confused. They may not know exactly what they should do. They may be asked to do things that are outside their comfort zone and aren't solidly within their skill set. So training is a vital piece for many projects. Other internal risks were the scheduling aspect of those part-time employees, and so you had some good ways of mitigating that as well. Kayla said it's important that we should just have a solid schedule, just have a set schedule for these part-time employees. Work with them, see what their class schedules are, and have, this is what the schedule is going to be. We're going to commit to it. And Rebecca said another thing that we could do is we could have people that would be available for on-call. So if somebody calls out sick, if somebody calls out because, oh, I have this huge exam this week, I really can't come into work, there are people that are on the on-call list and they could be called in so that the work would still happen and the project wouldn't be delayed. Both of those excellent mitigation strategies. Of course, there's also external risks. And how do we deal with these external risks? The things that we really don't have a whole lot of control over. We don't have control over if there's a big snowstorm and it knocks out all the power. How do you mitigate that risk? And you had some good ideas. Kathy said, well, perhaps a good thing to do would be to have a generator. If you have a generator, so that if the power goes out, you can still continue to do the work. That's an excellent idea. And Alyssa said, well, maybe the thing to do is to have some extra time built into the schedule so that if we have some kind of natural disaster, if we have something that's completely beyond the control of anybody in the organization that's going to delay us, if the power goes out, if there's a snowstorm, if there's COVID, as Kayla pointed out, COVID's an external risk that keeps people from coming into the office. That would be a big delay. And even if for example, in Global Green Books, we could recalibrate things so that people could work from home. It would still take time to do that. You'd still need extra time to set that up and to organize that and to make that happen. So, um, so Alyssa's idea of a time buffer built into the schedule would be a good idea. Of course, you can't always do that, right? You can't always allow for extra time. The university might come to you and say, "Hey, we really need it by this date." Well, then that's the date they need it by. There's not a whole lot of ability to say, "Well, can't we make it 2 weeks later?" Well, no, the semester starts January 15th. That's when we need it. So both of those are great mitigation strategies, and for different circumstances, right? That's the thing. As a project manager, you're thinking of analyzing the circumstances and what would be helpful and what might not be so helpful, what would work, what might work under particular conditions. So as we move into this last week of our time together, we will be talking about project closing. And this is a time to reflect on the whole project management process, what went well, what didn't go well, where would more information be helpful, what other what other resources would have been helpful as this project was put together. Reflect on that, and if you have any questions, if you want to have some conversation with me about that, please reach out to me. We are almost at the end of our time together, and I really appreciate all of your work, all of your effort. If there's any way that I can be helpful as we wrap up this course, please reach out to me. You're all doing a great job, and I appreciate your commitment to learning and your willingness to share your insights. Have a good last week, and I look forward to our discussion together in week 6. Thanks again.